Guys, Jake, the MMA dad, just got done reacting to Tom McDonald's album announcement video. It was pretty cool. If you guys are interested in that, go check it out. I thought that I threw some good info out there in that. But this video is going to be a little bit different. This isn't going to be a reaction video. This is going to be my thoughts and opinions video on the Tyron Woodley Jake Paul fight. Yes, I watched it. I watched the whole card, and being that I am an MMA fighter, I just wanted to talk about what I saw, kind of what my thoughts are on it. And if this video doesn't get any views, it is what it is. But it's something I would like to start doing more on the channel. Is talking about some of the fight cards, some of the big fights, kind of starting to do a little bit more content that has to do with combat sports, seeing how it is. I love combat sports, and I'm a combat sports athlete. So that being said, I'm fighting this weekend. So this is Wednesday, September 1st. Yeah, Wednesday, September 1st, and I fight this Sunday, September 5th in Houston. So hopefully sometime, maybe Monday or Tuesday, I'll be able to do another sit-down session. We'll react to some stuff, talk about the fight, let y'all know how it went. But I want to give a shout out to Hangover Gang, the Nightwish Army, and Creek Squad for rocking with the channel since day one, and helping us get to where we are as far as our subscribers grow, and helping us grow this family and this community, whichever way you guys feel you want to look at it. And as always, a big shout out and thank you to our active duty military, our veterans, and our first responders. We love you guys on this channel. We're praying for you all the time, and we love you, and thank you so much for what you do for us every single day. And like I've been saying in the last few sit-down videos, prayers upon prayers upon prayers for the whole situation in Afghanistan, all the families who were affected, and for the 13 Marines that lost their life, that didn't need to lose their life. Prayers on all that. I don't want to get into it. It's just going to upset me. But let's get into the Jake Paul Tyron Woodley fight. So much going on with this fight. Jake Paul is very strategic in what he's doing. It's very smart, because he knows that he has a huge following on YouTube, social media. I mean, millions of followers, right? So he knows that by doing these boxing matches, even if he gets half or maybe even less than half of his total social media followers to purchase that pay-per-view, he's going to do big numbers, right? So he doesn't have to be the best fighter in the world, because he already has such a huge fan base. And this is something that I myself and many other fighters don't do well enough, is social media in general, right? Because when you're a fighter, you're basically an independent contractor, right? So you're going to sign a contract with a promoter, and that contract is going to dictate how much you get paid per fight, how much to show up, how much to win. Every organization's a little bit different in how they do their contracts. But at the end of the day, you're in business for yourself, right? So you can't just rely on your promoter to promote you. You have to build yourself as a brand. And I'm 100% guilty of being horrible at this myself, because I don't like talking about myself. When I'm out training, when I'm out doing things, I'm not thinking of, taking a bunch of selfies and a bunch of pictures and stuff, because it's just not, it's not something that I really think to do, right? It's not because I'm like, oh, I'm shy, I don't want to do it. I mean, I do movies and stunts, so obviously I'm not shy to be in front of the camera. It's just the way that my personality is, I don't think to do that. I don't think to bring shine on myself. I would rather bring shine on my teammates, shine on my fellow actors and stuntmen. I would rather be a part of what brings shine on all of us as a group, as opposed to just like trying to put shine on myself. So I suck at social media as well. But having that brand, having that social media presence helps you as a fighter, because you get paid solely off of, well, I don't want to say you get paid solely off of it, but being a draw, and being able to put butts in the seats and put eyes on the television goes a long way in your contract negotiations. Conor McGregor being an example of that. Jake Paul being an example of that, right? Now, the difference is Conor McGregor is a phenomenal fighter. Jake Paul, I mean, I'm not going to say he can't, fight, but he's not a high-level fighter, right? But it doesn't matter, because they both have such a huge brand, and they both have so many followers that whatever they do, people are going to pay attention. People are going to want to be involved with that. And because of that, it's another, it just goes to show how smart Jake Paul is and what he's doing, because he knows that he needs to capitalize on it while he has it, right? So when I say he's being strategic, right? So first he fights another YouTuber, I think. I didn't watch that fight. Then he fights Nate Robinson, an NBA basketball player. So he can spin the angle of, I'm fighting a legitimate professional athlete. That's all well and good, except for the fact that Nate Robinson has never fought at all. He has no training in fighting, and being an athlete and being a fighter are two very different things. So he's very good at spinning the narrative to make it sound like he's overcoming this huge obstacle when he's really not. So even if you don't think Jake Paul has much fighting skill, he's still in the gym training and sparring and doing these things. So he still has more skill and experience than Nate Robinson, but he's not going to talk about Nate Robinson as a fighter. He's just going to point out that Nate Robinson is a pro-level athlete, won multiple dunk competitions, NBA All-Star, all this other stuff. He's going to talk up that side of Nate Robinson so that you don't think about the fact that Nate Robinson doesn't know how to fight. So now when he goes into the ring and he knocks Nate Robinson out cold like he did, now the vast majority of casual fans are like, oh man, the YouTuber just knocked out a professional athlete. And it's not by any means the correct narrative, but it's the smart narrative on Jake Paul's part for using that to make that money, right? So then after that, he fights Ben Askren. And then what do? Again, they're spinning the narrative in their favor. Ben Askren, Olympian. Ben Askren, multiple time MMA world champion in multiple different organizations. Ben Askren comes into the UFC, beats Robbie Lawler, one of the most feared strikers in the UFC. They talk it up like Ben Askren is this world beater of a fighter. And, when it comes to grappling, especially being able to take grappling over into MMA, Ben Askren is one of the best to ever do it. I'm a huge Ben Askren fan. But I'm going to sit here as a huge Ben Askren fan and tell you right now, Ben Askren is not a striker. Never has been a striker, never will be a striker. He's not really physically built to be a striker, right? Like, you have certain guys that they're just world beater strikers, and then you have certain guys who are just world-class grapplers. And they are that way because they found something they're good at, and everybody's genetics plays a role in it. If you're somebody who just doesn't have a lot of explosiveness, you don't have a lot of fast twitch muscle fibers, you can still learn the skills to be a striker, but it doesn't mean you're going to be a devastating striker like somebody like a Mike Tyson, like an Israel Adesanya, who has that fast twitch muscle, that has that ability to really hurt you with the striking. But Ben Askren can wrestle for days and days and days and days and days because it's what he's built to do, right? So again, Jake Paul and his team do a great job of spinning that narrative to make it sound like this is a huge challenge for Jake Paul to overcome because of the MMA accolades, the athletic accolades that Ben Askren had. Again, they don't mention that Ben Askren's not a striker. Not until it becomes time to start talking crap, then they'll do it. But then they'll turn around in the promos and try to make Ben Askren out to be this juggernaut of a fighter. You know what I mean? So they pick and choose when they want to use this individual's whatever individual he happens to be fighting at the time. They pick and choose when they want to use their athletic accomplishments to make that guy seem like he's going to destroy Jake Paul, and then they'll very subtly sometimes bring up their inadequacies as a striker when they're trash talking, which I find funny because it's like, well, how can you sit here and listen to them say the things they're talking about when they're trash talking and then turn around and be surprised that Jake Paul is knocking these guys out when they don't have any fighting experience, right? Excuse me. So, again, they did a terrific job spinning the narrative and being creative with the marketing when he fought Ben Askren. Knocks out Ben Askren, which even a lot of people within the MMA community were like, yeah, he's probably going to knock out Ben because Ben's just not a striker. Now, if this was an MMA match, Ben ragdolls him and puts him unconscious on the ground. But it wasn't an MMA match. It was a boxing match, right? And boxing is like the perfect avenue for Jake Paul because it's something that it's a one-dimensional fighting style, right? I can only use my hands. I only can hit you in the torso and in the head. And even then, I can only hit you in certain parts of the torso and the head. There is no clinch game. There are no takedowns. There are no kicks. You know, it limits the skill set. So it makes it to where he can now pick and choose because let's face it, when it comes to just straight throwing hands, nobody's going to beat a boxer in straight throwing hands. So what he's doing is now he moves on to Tyron Woodley, right? Here's the thing about Tyron. Tyron is still not known as a phenomenal striker. He's still a powerful wrestler that has an extremely has knockout power, has incredible explosiveness, but he's not a striker. That's not his background. That's not his forte. Can he strike? Absolutely. But is he high level striker? No. Well, not high level striker when you put him up against people who are pure strikers like Wonderboy Thompson, like Israel Adesanya, Robert Whittaker, these guys who are great strikers. Woodley is a great striker, but he's a great striker. There's levels to it, right? So, but what do they say? What's the narrative they're spinning? Tyron Woodley, UFC champion, Strikeforce champion, knockout power in both hands, crazy explosive fighter. Let's not point out that Tyron Woodley fought at 170 and Jake Paul's weighing in at 190, but let's face it, he was 200, maybe a little over 200 pounds that night when he stepped inside the ring. So he's fighting guys who are a lot smaller than him on purpose, and he's using their athletic accolades to distract you. It's like sleight of hand from a magician, right? So he's trying to distract you from, this guy's smaller than me. He's not really a striker. He's not known for being a striker. In Nate Robinson's case, he's never fought at all. So you're not paying attention to all that. You're paying attention to the sleight of hand, to the smoke and mirrors side of it. So he has everybody convinced that Tyron Woodley is his biggest challenge, which, to be honest, Tyron Woodley was going to be Jake Paul's biggest challenge. But here's the other thing that, you know, they weren't pointing out in any of the promo. Tyron Woodley's 39, 40 years old now, which doesn't mean anything. You can still be an effective fighter into your 40s. But Tyron, I think he lost his last 4 UFC fights against crazy high-level competition, but he lost his last 4 fights. People weren't exactly sure where Tyron's head was at, like if he was really all in on fighting anymore, because he had all these other things outside of fighting that he was focusing on. So again, Jake Paul is conveniently choosing somebody that's smaller than him, that striking is not their primary skill set, but spinning the narrative on the things that they have accomplished to make it sound like every single step of the way he's David going up against Goliath every single time and taking these big steps up in competition, and that's not what happened. So now let's talk about the fight itself. So Tyron comes out. One thing that Tyron, I don't know when it happened in his MMA career, but Tyron Woodley used to be extremely aggressive, extremely powerful, extremely explosive, and he would just come forward throwing bombs, taking you down, continuing to throw bombs. Like he was aggressive. And then he hit this point in his career where he just, I don't know if he got gun shy or what happened, but he hit a point in his career where his output in a fight just wasn't there. Like it was like he was hesitating on pulling the trigger, and he looked like a completely different Tyron Woodley, and that's what led to him losing a lot of the fights that he lost, was inactivity. He was very capable of winning those fights, but the thing is, guys, is like the judges in these fights, they don't have access to like the fight metric stuff, like who landed, who missed, you know, who landed more strikes, who landed more power strikes or significant strikes. They don't have access to any of that. They don't have access to like the instant replay where when you see this long combination and when you see it full speed, you're like, holy crap, look at all those punches he landed. And then when you go back and you watch the replay and you watch it in slow-mo, it's really like, well, he missed a bunch of those punches. A bunch of those punches were blocked, or a bunch of those punches, you know, bounced off the shoulders or whatever. They don't get to see that. So they only get to see what they can see with their eyes. So in my opinion, what happened in that fight was Woodley, I think, was landing the more powerful and the cleaner shots. The problem was they were few and far in between, so he didn't have the activity that Jake Paul had. So Jake Paul, to judges, is winning the fight because it appears that he's landing more because he's throwing more often. And, you know, Tyron afterwards was like, all he did was run from me and this, that, and another. But at the end of the day, that's what martial arts is: hit and don't be hit, right? So it's, the fans want to see a war. They want to see two guys standing in the middle of the ring or in the middle of the cage just wailing on each other. That's what the fans want to see because it's exciting, right? But that's not what fighting is. It's not what martial arts is. It's about being skillful and being able to use your footwork and use your angles and use your setups to be able to hit your opponent without your opponent being able to hit you. So if you think about the Cyril Gane and Derek Lewis fight, everybody knows Derek Lewis has crazy knockout power in both hands. Everybody knows Derek Lewis really wants to land that right hand. So, and I had said this to a lot of people I was rooting for Derek Lewis, but I said if Derek can't lure Gane into a brawling fist fight, he's probably going to lose. And that's exactly what happened is Gane didn't get sucked into that. Every time Derek Lewis would really start to close the distance, Gane would just circle out and sometimes circled out by running and then turn around, reset in the center of the octagon and start working his traps, start working his footwork, start working his setups. And that's what Jake Paul was doing to Tyron Woodley. Tyron would start trying to come in because he's got a huge reach disadvantage. Remember, Jake Paul's a lot bigger than him. So Jake Paul was pumping the jab out there, and then he knew that in order for Tyron to hit him, Tyron was going to have to get close and explode. So right when Jake Paul thought that Tyron was going to explode forward, he would either run out or he would cut an angle or he would clinch him up. And what he was doing, he would land 1, 2, 3 punches, clinch, 1, 2, 3 punches, run away, 1, 2, 3 punches, clinch. And, you know, Tyron can say all he wants that, oh, Jake Paul, all he did was run from me. Jake Paul fought a smart fight. He knew that Tyron Woodley had the ability to knock him out. So Jake Paul was doing everything that Jake Paul could do to not give Tyron the opportunity to knock him out. Is it the most fan-pleasing way to fight? No, it's not. But you can't say that somebody's running from you just because they're implementing a game plan of hit and don't get hit, and understanding where your strengths are and taking those strengths away from you, because that's what martial arts is. Jake Paul won the fight. You know, if activity plays a huge role in that. Tyron landed the cleaner shots. Tyron landed the more powerful shots, but Jake Paul had the volume, and, you know, he took some of Tyron's best shots and still kept fighting. Now, had they had a few more rounds, I think Tyron probably could have put him away, because you could see how tired Jake Paul was getting. But at the end of the day, Jake Paul is just being very smart and very strategic with who he fights, how he markets it, and then when he gets in the ring, he's doing everything he can to outpoint his opponents. I know his other fights have been knockouts, but let's face it, those knockouts don't count. They weren't against strikers. Tyron Woodley was the first guy that had legitimate striking, and that's when Jake had to really implement the game plan of, I'm going to hit him when I can hit him, and when I can't, I'm either going to clinch or I'm going to get out of the way. So did this teach us anything? It taught us that Jake Paul can take a good shot. It taught us that Jake Paul is not afraid to get into the ring with somebody who has the potential to knock him out. But it also continued the narrative of Jake Paul not fighting people who are first and foremost strikers, right? It showed us that he's not fighting people his own size. It showed us that he's being strategic in who it is that he's fighting and being smart in the way that he spins the narrative. So do I think Jake Paul beats somebody his own size that actually box? No. Him calling out Canelo, asinine. Canelo would beat the dog snot out of you. It's all a marketing ploy, man. It's just smart marketing on his part. Now, he says he wants to be taken serious. Like, when you start saying things like you want to win a title, you got to start fighting boxers, man. You got to start fighting people your own size. You can't win a title fighting people that you outweigh by 20, 25, 30 pounds and have huge reach and height advantages on. That's not going to be winning a title. You want to win a title, you need to start fighting. Would they fight at cruiserweight? I think 190. You better start fighting some actual boxers. You know, he wants to stand up there and be like, you know, how many people fight legitimate people this early in their career. You haven't fought a legitimate boxer that's your size. You fought grapplers, and you fought NBA players, and you fought other YouTubers. That's who you fought. So that's my 2 cents on everything. I know this is kind of a long video, probably a longer video than y'all thought it was going to be, but I just wanted to give you guys my opinion, my thoughts on it, and what I feel is going on with what Jake Paul is doing. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this breakdown of the Jake Paul situation, the Tyron Woodley fight. You know what, Jake Paul, I know you don't know who I am, but if you ever want to fight somebody, I'll fight you. So just throwing that out there. Anyway, guys, not like Jake Paul's ever going to see my videos and give a crap about fighting me, right? But anyway, that being said, guys, I love y'all. I'll see y'all later. See y'all in the next sit down, probably after my fights on September 5th. It'll probably be later on in that week. So see y'all then.